Hello, welcome to Bible Study. I'm Chaplain Harold Epley, and you're tuned in to East Castle Place's weekly Bible study, and we're going to continue today. We've been reading the book, Max Lucado's Traveling Light, which is a reflection on the 23rd Psalm, The Lord is My Shepherd. And we're moving along now into chapter 5, and I hope this has been meaningful for you. I love this book. It's Max Lucado just has a great writing style and a way of making the long, treasured words of the 23rd Psalm kind of speak to us in new ways and really applying to our daily lives. So today we're in chapter 5, which is entitled, I Will Give You Rest. It's subtitled, The Burden of Weariness. And he's reflecting now on the second verse of Psalm 23, which reads, He makes me to lie down in green pastures. I'll give you the consequences of the burden. You guess the cause. It afflicts 70 million Americans and is faulted for 38,000 deaths each year. The condition annually costs the U.S. $70 billion worth of productivity. Teenagers suffer from it. Studies show that 64% of teens blame it for poor school performance. Middle-agers face it. Researchers say the most severe cases occur between ages 30 and 40. Senior citizens are afflicted by it. One study suggests that the condition impacts 50% of the over 65 population. Treatments involve everything from mouth guards to herbal teas to medication. Any idea what's being described? Chemical abuse? Divorce? Long sermons? None of those answers are correct, though the last one was a good hunch. The answer may surprise you. Insomnia. America can't get to sleep. For most of my life, I secretly snickered at the thought of sleep difficulties. My problem was not in going to sleep. My problem was staying awake. But a few years ago, I went to bed one night, closed my eyes, and nothing happened. I didn't fall asleep. Rather than slow to a halt, my mind kicked into high gear. 1,001 obligations rushed at me. Midnight passed, and I was still awake. I drank some milk, returned to bed. I was still awake. I woke up Denalyn using the blue ribbon of dumb questions. Are you awake? She told me to quit thinking about things. So I did. I quit thinking about things and started thinking about people. But as I thought of people, I thought of what those people were doing. They were sleeping. That made me mad and kept me awake. Finally, somewhere in the early hours of the morning, having been initiated into the fraternity of 70 million sleepless Americans, I dozed off. I don't snicker at the thought of sleep difficulties anymore. Nor do I question the inclusion of the verse about rest in the 23rd Psalm. People with too much work and too little sleep step over to the baggage claim of life and grab the duffel bag of weariness. You don't carry this one. You don't hoist it onto your shoulder and stride down the street. You drag it as you would a stubborn St. Bernard. Weariness wearies. Why are we so tired? Have you read a newspaper lately? We long to have the life of Huck and Tom on the Mississippi, but look at us riding the white waters of the Rio Grande. Forks in the river, rocks in the water, heart attacks, betrayal, credit card debt, and custody battles. Huck and Tom didn't have to face these kind of things. We do, however, and they keep us awake. And since we can't sleep, we have a second problem. Our bodies are tired. Think about it. If 70 million Americans aren't sleeping enough, what does that mean? That means 1/3 of our country is dozing off at work, or napping through class, or sleeping at the wheel. 1,500 road deaths per year are blamed on heavy-eyed truck drivers. Some even snooze while reading Max Lucado books. Hard to fathom, I know. 30 tons of aspirins, sleeping pills, and tranquilizers are consumed every day. The energy gauge on the dashboard of our forehead says empty. Were we to invite an alien to solve our problem, he'd suggest a simple solution. Everybody go to sleep. We'd laugh at him. He doesn't understand the way we work. Literally. He doesn't understand the way we work. We work hard. There is money to be made, degrees to be earned, ladders to be climbed. In our book, busyness is next to godliness. We idolize Thomas Edison, who claimed he could live on 15-minute naps. Somehow we forget to mention Albert Einstein, who averaged 11 hours of sleep a night. In 1910, Americans slept 9 hours a night. Today we sleep 7 or less and are proud of it. And we are tired because of it. Our minds are tired. Our bodies are tired. But much more important, our souls are tired. We are eternal creatures and we ask eternal questions. Where did I come from? Where am I going? What is the meaning of life? What is right? What is wrong? Is there life after death? These are the primal questions of the soul, and left unanswered, such questions will steal our rest. Only one other living creature has as much trouble resting as we do. Not dogs, they doze. Not bears, they hibernate. Cats invented the catnap. And the sloths slumber 20 hours a day. Most animals know how to rest. There is one exception. These creatures are woolly, simple-minded, and slow. No, not husbands on Saturday. Sheep. Sheep can't sleep. For sheep to sleep, everything must be just right. No predators, no tension in the flock, no bugs in the air, no hunger in the belly. Everything has to be just so. Unfortunately, sheep cannot find safe pasture, nor can they spray insecticide, deal with the frictions, or find food. They need help. They need a shepherd to lead them and help them lie down in green pastures. Without a shepherd, they can't rest. Without a shepherd, neither can we. In the second verse of the 23rd Psalm, David the poet becomes David the artist. His quill becomes a brush, his parchment a canvas, and his words paint a picture. A flock of sheep on folded legs, encircling a shepherd. Bellies nestled deep in the long shoots of grass. A still pond on one side, the watching shepherd on the other. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. Note the two pronouns preceding the two verbs. He makes me. He leads me. Who is the active one? Who is in charge? The shepherd. The shepherd selects the trail and prepares the pasture. The sheep's job, our job, is to watch the shepherd. With our eyes on our shepherd, we'll be able to get some sleep. As Isaiah 26, verse 3 says, "You will keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you." The other day, my wife met a friend at a restaurant for coffee. The two entered the parking lot at the same time. When Denalyn stepped out of her car, she saw her friend waving her over. Denalyn thought she was saying something, but she couldn't hear a word. A jackhammer was pounding pavement only a few feet away. She walked toward her friend, who, as it turned out, was just saying hello, and the two entered the restaurant. When it came time to leave, my wife couldn't find her keys. She looked in her purse, on the floor, in her friend's car. Finally, when she went to her car, there they were. Not only were the keys in the ignition, the car was running. It had been running the entire time she and her friend were in the cafe. Denalyn blames the oversight on the noise. Everything was so loud I forgot to turn it off. The world gets that way. Life can get so loud we forget to shut it down. Maybe that's why God made such a big deal about rest in the Ten Commandments. Of the 10 declarations carved in the tablets, which one occupies the most space? Murder? Adultery? Stealing? You'd think so. Certainly each is worthy of ample coverage. But curiously, these commands are tributes to brevity. God needed only 5 English words to condemn adultery, and 4 to denounce thievery and murder. But when it came to the topic of rest, 1 sentence would not suffice. Remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall do no work, you, nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your manservant, nor your maidservant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the 7th day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. You can find those words in 3 verses of chapter 20 of Exodus, verses 8 through 11. God knows us so well. He can see the store owner reading this verse and thinking, somebody needs to work that day. If I can't, my son will. So God says, not your son. Well, then my daughter will. Not your daughter. Well, then maybe an employee. Nor them. I guess I'll have to send my cow to run the store, or maybe I'll find some stranger to help me. No, God says. 1 day of the week you will say no to work, and yes, to worship. You will slow and sit down and lie down and rest. Still, we object. But, who is going to run the store? What about my grades? I've got my sales quota. We offer up one reason after another, but God silences them all with a poignant reminder. In 6 days, the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea and all that is in them, and rested the 7th day. God's message is plain. If creation didn't crash when I rested, it won't crash when you do. Repeat these words after me. It is not my job to run the world. A century ago, Charles Spurgeon gave this advice to his preaching students. Even beasts of burden must be turned out to grass occasionally. The very sea pauses at ebb and flow. Earth keeps the Sabbath of the wintry months. And man, even when exalted to God's ambassador, must rest or faint, must trim his lamp or let it burn low, must recruit his vigor or grow prematurely old. In the long run, we shall do more by sometimes doing less. The bow cannot always be bent without fear of breaking. For a field to bear fruit, it must occasionally lie fallow. And for you to be healthy, you must rest. Slow down, and God will heal you. He will bring rest to your mind, to your body, and most of all to your soul. He will lead you to green pastures. Green pastures were not the natural terrain of Judea. The hills around Bethlehem, where David kept his flock, were not lush and green. Even today they are white and parched. Any green pasture in Judea is the work of some shepherd. He has cleared the rough, rocky land, and stumps have been torn out, and brush has been burned. Irrigation, cultivation, such are the work of a shepherd. Hence, when David says, he makes me to lie down in green pastures, he is saying, my shepherd makes me lie down in his finished work. With his own pierced hands, Jesus created a pasture for the soul. He tore out the thorny underbrush of condemnation. He pried loose the huge boulders of sin. In their place he planted seeds of grace and dug ponds of mercy. And he invites us to rest there. Can you imagine the satisfaction in the heart of the shepherd when, with work completed, he sees his sheep rest in the tender grass? Can you imagine the satisfaction in the heart of God when we do the same? His pasture is his gift to us. This is not a pasture that you have made, nor is it a pasture that you deserve. It is a gift of God. For it is by grace you have been saved through faith, and this not from yourselves. It is the gift of God. Ephesians 2, verse 8. In a world rocky with human failure, there is a land lush with divine mercy. Your shepherd invites you there. He wants you to lie down, nestle deeply until you are hidden, buried in the tall shoots of his love. And there you will find rest. That concludes chapter 5 of Max Lucado's Traveling Light. And I'm going to leave you with a few questions to reflect on as you think about this whole topic of being restful. And perhaps you suffer from insomnia, like he mentioned at the beginning of this chapter here, or perhaps you feel overwhelmed by all the burdens of life. But one way or another, most of us have moments when we really need to relax and rest and trust God's presence in our life. So some discussion questions for you here. First one, what sorts of things tend to make you weary? What are the things that get you down? Maybe worries in your head, maybe relationships you have with people. What wearies you the most? And then think about how you normally deal with weariness. And what did you do the last time a case of weariness struck hard? Just take some time to think about that. Reflect on how much sleep you normally get. Is it sufficient for you to function well? And think about what you could do. There are ways to better your sleep. Why do you think God so emphasized the fourth commandment about resting on the Sabbath day? As he pointed out here, more words are devoted to that commandment than to any other. Why is our resting so important to God? A lot to think about there. I know this is a topic that touches all of us in different ways at different times in our lives. We'll be continuing again next week with chapter 6, and that one is entitled, What Ifs and Howls? The Burden of Worry. So we'll be talking about worrying next week, another topic most of us can relate to. Meantime, have a great week. Peace be with you. It's Holy Week. For many Christians are celebrating that this week with Easter on the horizon. So hope if that's part of your life, that it's a especially meaningful time for you. God bless and take care.